The April 13th, 2022 special Wasilla City Council meeting is called to order. The time is 6 p.m. Before we begin, council, please put away cell phones. If you have personal business to attend to during the meeting, please move for a recess. If you are participating telephonically, please mute your phone unless speaking. Also, when speaking, please state your name for those streaming the meeting. As a reminder to all attendees, this meeting is being streamed live. The camera is located directly in the back of the council chambers, right above the clock. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Sullivan Leonard.
Here.
Councilmember Graham.
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Vlock.
Here.
And Councilmember Rubeo.
Here.
Madam Mayor, all council members are present with us in council chambers.
Thank you. Please stand for the pledge, and Elena, if you would lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item of business is approval of the agenda. Are there changes to the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda will stand as presented. We are now at persons to be heard. Do you have any more? No. Okay, then we are now at new business. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the first and only item of business this evening.
Madam Mayor, it's the fiscal year 2023 and 2024 biennial budget discussion and departmental presentations. Will be in a committee of the whole, and this is reference to Ordinance number 22-24, providing for the adoption of the annual budget for fiscal year 2023 and appropriating funds to carry out said budget.
Okay. Is there a motion? We're going into committee of the whole, are we not?
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I move that council moves into committee of the whole.
Is there a second?
second by Councilman Johnson.
It's been moved by Councilmember Sullivan Leonard and seconded by Councilmember Johnson to enter a committee of the whole. Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Department budgets will now be presented in agenda order, beginning with administration. Each account description within the department will be reviewed, beginning with personal services. If you have any questions, please wait to be recognized. Okay, on page 94 in your binder is administration. And I will go through with calling the account numbers. Everybody ready?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I'm sorry, just for a moment, please.
Sure.
I know the usual procedure that you follow is to go by number. We also have a summary from the administration with regard to kind of your goals and what you're wanting to achieve for the budget coming forward, if you would.
With the administration, my budget is flat because I don't do anything other than what's normally been done. But as far as the other is, you all know how fast we're growing and whatever, and so we had to look at, lacking of a better term, updating different departments because of the growth that we have had, and we are lagging a little bit behind on that. So, anything else?
Nope.
Okay. All right, personnel services, account number 10. Personnel Service Benefits, account number 20.
Oh, Madam Mayor, I'm sorry. On your temporary account, you're having an increase there that's fairly significant. What is the, what's driving that? I guess I didn't find that. I mean, it's only, it's not a real big, I said significant, it's only $1,500.
Troy?
Sure. Through the mayor to Councilman Johnson, so the hours that were used in the temporary budget, look back to the 21 timeframe. And then if you use the, in essence, the escalators that occur on the payroll, it's just taking those same hours and adjusting it for those.
So it's a temporary staff position? That was the,
It's a temporary person, so like when the assistant to the mayor is on vacation, a temporary person can come in.
no problem. Okay, thank you very much. Good explanation.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. Probably to Mr. Tankersley here, I see the difference in salary, 1010 is, 4 point, or difference between 22 and 23 is 9%. With step increases and cost of living, I don't think we were anywhere near that number. What am I missing there?
So this is always an interesting topic in trying to explain between the comparison between FY22 amended budget to the FY23 proposed budget. So when we look at this, you might see this in other departments as well. The calculation that's used looks at an individual's actual wage today, for example, and then is estimated by, say, the 4.5%.
4.5% would be the normal step plus cost of living?
Correct. Making the assumption that there's a 2% CPI and a 2.5% step say. So that then generates a per hour rate times 2080 or 2088 oftentimes. And it creates the proposed budget. When you look back and try to compare that to an amended budget that had previously looked at actual, in this case, for this comparison, it would look at the actual of 21 when we did it, right? So now is what 23 is trying to do is readjust what those numbers are. So the percentage can actually be less than 4%, say, or it can show something like this where it has a bigger gap because the timing at which, say, the mayor came on or a new person came on or something like that will impact the change percentage. It looks bigger, and the percentage actually causes it to look bigger than it really is. The calculation in the proposed budget is looking at its actual wage today and making the assumption that we have, in this case, a 4.5% escalator to that hourly wage. You've got that same look we have every year that says, what?
I'm not saying what, I'm just, after 7 years of doing this, you're talking about looking at an actual from 21 when the chart clearly says actual from, or amended from 22 versus what we're proposing for 23. So I'm missing that little connector piece in there.
Right, so 23 proposed budget is looking at the actual wage of the position earned in 22 right now. Right. And then using that 4.5% escalator. When it tries to compare that against, in this case, the 22 amended budget, 22 amended budget used the 21 actual number and did an escalator, whatever that was. So you might have amended budget or a budget that was less than it is today. So your percentage gap can actually be greater. Conversely, it can be also less. And that depends on when a position starts or changes to the position, things like,
So-
not specific.
So in this case, the administration that we're looking at, this number probably reflects the fact that we did not have a deputy administrator right off the bat. And we may have missed some wages there, so the amended budget was actually smaller.
And this particular budget that we're talking about is the mayor's budget,
Right.
which encompasses the mayor and the assistant to the mayor. The deputy administrator has the general. Just to make that clear.
Thank you, appreciate that. Doesn't help me any, but thank you.
I'll be happy to try to sit with you and
Okay,
And just really quick, through the mayor,
yes.
Troy, and then when you have the adopted budget and the amended budget is what council has made changes for that you had proposed. So the adopted budget is the final budget, is that correct?
So the adopted budget is the original adopted budget that was adopted by council at that time. The amended budget can be caused from encumbrances that come over from one year to the next. It can be caused from appropriations that were passed by council.
Right, so adopted is first, amended is second.
I'm sorry?
So adopted is the first one. Amended is what could have happened after the budget was adopted that you've had to
Yeah,
make changes
things,
to.
yeah, through
Okay,
various
I'm
sources.
just double checking.
Those numbers to change, yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
And the numbers that you're looking at, which say reflect current day salaries, would then reflect the amended budget, not the adopted budget, is what I'm hearing.
The current salary is adjusted from the 23 budget. In this particular case, you'll notice there is no change in wages between the 22 adopted and the 22 amended.
Right.
You'll find as we go through other departments, that may not be the case. You might have had a adopted wage amount, but the amended wage amount, say, is less. For the sake of this conversation, it's possible that the department overexpended, say, overtime, let's say. And so monies needed to be moved from the wage line to the overtime line, so that the line doesn't stay overexpended.
Thank you, sir.
We are on to account 20, personnel services benefits. Any questions?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
So I thought we were using an 8% escalator for insurance. Was that just roughly 8%, or is that kind of how that worked out? 2010?
Correct. It is an 8% escalator, and you'll see, again, it's the same concept. When we budget, in this case for group insurance, we budget 8%. If you look at the comparison between 23 and 24, you're at 8%.
Right.
And that's because you're looking at a budget of 23 going to 24 of 8%. When we look at 23, it's looking at 22's actual. 22 actual actually came in less, right? So the percentage gap is less. So, and that's what's causing this. But you are correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to professional services, account 30.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I could ask, what is our total legal expenses and what is the percentage of legal allocated, proposed for the administration?
Through the mayor to council, I don't have the total legal budget or legal dollar amount in front of me tonight. I can certainly get that for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Account number 40, purchased property. Account number 50, other purchased services. Account number 60, supplies. Account number 99, interfund transfers.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
So, we had this discussion a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago, about the vehicle fund. And that number 10,000 may have been inadequate. Was that a temporary assumption that it would be inadequate, or was that a temporary thing based on supply and demand? I'm seeing 10,000 continuing to be carried forward. Do we need to adjust that to 12.5 or 15 or?
Well, through the mayor to council, so I wasn't of the impression that it was a temporary number, but rather $10,000 would be contributed each year. If right now in FY22, $40,000 would be incorporated into the vehicle fund for replacement of the vehicle. $40,000 isn't sufficient at this point in time to make that purchase. In FY23, the vehicle fund would have $50,000 available to it to make that purchase. And at that time, an appropriation would be made, if so chose.
And it's your opinion that the allocation of $10,000 a year is sufficient to meet future needs? Thank you.
Okay. Any questions on the administration? Okay, we are moving on to Management Information Systems. Steve, and it's on page 137 through 139. Steve, would you come forward, please?
Alright, nice to meet everybody. I'm Steve Stewart, the IT manager. Basically our overall goal is just kind of to modernize the IT department, kind of bring it up to speed from where it's kind of at. You know, it needs a little bit of care and time. Not a ton of money is really needed to get us where we need to be. That'll be coming, especially in this budget. As you can see, it didn't really increase all that drastically, really not much at all. So if we kind of want to go down the same list as we did, that's kind of the standard practice, we can do that. Sounds fun.
Could we just have a little bit of a summary on some of the things that you did accomplish, what your goals are?
Yeah. We'll start. I've only been here about 6 months. On my second day, the previous IT guy put in his resignation. So basically the entire time I'm just trying to get up to speed. But we have accomplished quite a bit. Something big, we did a top-level domain migration, so we got rid of that ci.wasilla.ak.us domain for email and migrated the website to a more appropriate official citywasilla.gov address. You know, I just kind of a general updated everything that I could. Did some security standardizations that's going to apply to all workstations and servers all at once. We ordered a lot of equipment. I was going to help with some teleworking ability. Lead times are crazy right now on IT equipment. Some things are up to 52 weeks to get to once we order it. So, and then even that's a guess. So, kind of a lot of waiting around right now for hardware. We got the streaming going on in here, so that's another accomplishment. you like it or not, it's here now. I mean, that's pretty much all the big stuff. If you have any specific questions, we can.
Sure.
do something.
On page 135, it says that you estimated a 40 PC workstation replacement, and it looks like then in 23 you're estimating 20, and then in 24 none. And I just question the progression there. I mean, do you replace these things on a time basis, or?
It's generally as the warranties expire on the devices. So they come with like a general 4-year maintenance contract. You can expand it if you want. That 0 there was indicating number of workstations older than 4 years should be 0 by then, as in everything should be up to date and under maintenance contracts. We would technically still be replacing some that may be coming up, but I guess my intention of that line was to say, everything would be new and under maintenance contract by that year.
Okay, so that's reflected in your 2024 column then?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
That was my understanding when I put it.
Thank you.
Johnson, we need to move on
Go in order.
and go in order of our accounts and stuff, and you can ask questions as we go in order, okay? Okay, we're gonna start with account 10. Personnel services, are there any questions? Account 20, personnel services benefit.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
going back to account 1030 overtime, substantial increase between 22 and 23. Is there that much downtime happening after hours, or what would be the, even though it's a fairly small number, I mean, it's only $1,500 or $1,600.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that number. I can tell you, I mean, my position is not overtime, and we only have one other employee, and he has not done any overtime yet either. A lot of the overtime is going to be when we eventually get this hardware, and we have to take services down, we have to work on a weekend or something like that. I think these numbers are kind of in there too. Troy might be better able to kind of answer how he kind of calculates overtime.
The fact that you're expecting a surge works for me, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Account 20, personnel services benefit. Account 30, professional services. Account 40, purchased property. 50, other purchased services. 60, supplies. 99,
If I could back up a little bit here to 5030, so 50 would be purchase services. I notice on page 139 you have a couple of MTA Centrex lines. Hasn't MTA discontinued Centrex as a service available in their service area?
That's a good question. This has been on the budget. I was not 100% sure what it was, so we left it in there. And I think we were trying to research what that was.
Can you try and find that out? Give us a note or something?
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor?
yes.
Okay, going back, you're on count 40, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, count 4030. One of the line items you have for the 2023 budget is Windows Services License Data Center, 35,000. Is that license just a annual license, or is that something that should be carried forward into 2024?
That is a permanent license. Once you purchase a data center license one time and the user calls, it is good for
Thank you.
basically until they expire that service.
Okay. Moving on, we are to account number 99, interfund transfers.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
Councilman Brown. I see the transfer there, and I see you had mentioned that you had a cybersecurity assessment being done. Was that possibly caused you to have to purchase additional software or equipment?
It could.
Will this suffice, is this still gonna suffice to cover that?
I hope so. I think a lot of the things we have now currently, we can just adjust settings or create new policies. We shouldn't have to buy any, very expensive equipment to accomplish what may or may not come out of the assessment. So I think we'll be good. And then if there are needs, we can put that on next year's budget.
Troy?
Madam Mayor, to the council, so just so we can clarify that technology replacement is a transfer from MIS, in this case, over to the technology replacement fund. And projects such as the one just referenced would come and appropriate from that if necessary.
I was just looking at the amount of computers he planned to purchase over the next 2 years.
Right. And those are budgeted and appropriated through technology replacement.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that if there was a big surprise, there was funds somewhere in the account here.
Madam Mayor?
Colleen?
Thank you. Just real quickly, I'm looking at 6015 with regard to supplies and furniture, and I see that you've got 5,000 for office furniture for fiscal year 23, and then 24 it also says office furniture. Will you need that in 24 if you're already getting furniture in 23? I'm just asking.
Probably not. No. It was just a carryover because I think it was even on 22 and it never happened just because of the shuffle and people leaving and new people, and I still don't really have a permanent office yet and stuff like that, so
You don't?
No.
it's kind of temporary, so
Okay.
we're working on it. So just kind of transferring that until we find a spot probably.
Yeah, sometimes there's a placeholder, and I get that. but-
Yeah, I think that's kind of what that one is. But once we do get furniture and stuff, we can get rid of it.
Thank you.
And Ethan, his worker, whatever his title is, anyway, he's in the closet. Well, that's his office.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is kind of going to bounce between you and Troy, whoever is appropriate. It's my understanding that for each PC, each department allocates a certain amount of money that goes into the technology replacement fund. And it's like $300 a year, I think, and for laptops it's less, as I recall, and it's so much for servers and so on and so forth. So I'm kind of curious where the $21,000 for your department is coming from. I mean, if we're looking at $300 a year for PCs and $100 a year for, was it 100 or 150 for laptops? I can't remember.
Well, it's $300 for laptops or PCs.
Is it? Okay, so $300 a year for anything with a processor in it, and then more for servers. But each department, for instance, the mayor's department and administration has 2 PCs, so they're paying $300 a year into the fund to replace those when they get to the end of their 4 or 5 year life. And every department is doing that. So it's not like your department is funding other people's PCs. This just seems like a lot of money. There's a piece here I'm missing.
The piece that you're missing, Councilmember Graham, is MIS gets the joy of picking up the pieces for all of us when we talk about the servers. So he picks up servers that we all share. So, and that's the piece you're missing.
And does his department then, does MIS own the laptops then and is responsible for the laptops, or does each department own the laptops that they
We have
have?
the laptops as well. Now, there are specific laptops that some departments do have, and those are accounted for in those departments. We're attempting to account for those in those departments.
And then on the second topic here, and Troy, you get to rest on this one. So item 6015, supplies, small tools and equipment, UPS spares and replacements, UPS being uninterruptible power supplies. You've got $2,500 each year. Aren't these things like $125 a piece for a decent one that lasts 6 or 8 years?
No, not necessarily, and I think this is more for like battery upkeep too, because batteries have a lifespan. This is another thing I just took off the previous budget. It's not something I have yet to like get into yet on the UPSs and find out, like, you know, they have a cache of batteries, but I don't know how long they generally last, like 4 to 5 years. So it's kind of another one of those, if we need batteries, we need them. So, and this I think is not more for the desk UPS systems. It's more for like the server racked UPS systems, which, yeah, it could cost $2,000 to replace a battery bank in one of those.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, we did account 99, which was the interfund transfers. Any questions on management information systems? Hearing none. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're moving on to general administrative services, page 101 to 103. No planning. Oh,
That's okay. 15.
sorry. It's 115 to 117 and it's planning. Can't read today.
It's kind of hiding in
Yeah,
there too.
it's
I was like, yeah.
That's what I got Jamie for. Okay, good evening, Tina.
Good evening.
Okay, we're gonna start with, account number 10, personnel services.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
again, could each department just give a quick summary on kind of their goals for the department and how to do it? Hi, Tina.
For the record, Tina Crawford, City Planner. So just on a, at a 30,000 foot level, planning's goal is to preserve and enhance quality of life and encourage economic growth and vitality in the city. So through that, we have permitting. We're always looking for ways to streamline permitting, transparency, code amendments to make things more appropriate to the city, realize cost savings to developers, but yet still enhance that quality of life that the residents want. So a couple of the things that we have done, I'll just take a second to brag. Last year, we had 160,000 square feet of new commercial. So that's a pretty good chunk of change, and that's actually commercial square footage. So we've continued to see that growth in square footage. We'll probably see a little bit of a decline this year. I think the materials costs are finally catching up. The COVID staffing issues are catching up with development, and I think it's slowing it down so far. Our numbers are a little bit down, but we're not letting that stop us. We're taking advantage of the slower time. One of the things we just did was, in coordination with code enforcement, was to get an online permitting system and tracking system that does for planning and for code compliance. So that's actually live on the city's website. It's been in place since January. At least a couple of the types have been in place. Planning will probably be 100% by mid-May with every permit type that we have. And everything that we've taken since January has been submitted digitally. So we can now track, we can generate reports, we can identify where development's going. It creates maps, all kinds of statistics. And the same for code compliance and animal control, but I'll let them talk about how it affects them. The other thing that we're doing is we're still working on code amendments. The landscape committee is still, we're trying to get that together and get that started to do another comprehensive look at our landscape plan to identify any other efficiencies. Also looking to, I know we've updated our fees. We've eliminated the fees for nonprofits. Used to be for temporary use, they'd have to pay the $50 fee like everyone else. We made that now $0. That's something that the Planning Commission approved last year or so. And then we've lowered the costs of things like temporary use, mobile food vendors, and commercial tenants to $25 because they really don't have much of a review fee. We want to pass those savings on to the business owners. But the ones that did need to be increased, there were some minor changes to conditional uses, use permits, that thing. The mailing costs have now been passed on to the applicant instead of the city paying for those costs. So that's really probably the only increase that we had. So our goal again is to just continue to increase our efficiencies and to find better ways to keep this a great community. We'll also be working with the deputy administrator on an economic development plan that will probably be adopted as a companion to our comprehensive plan. So that'll be good for guiding growth and development. And we're also looking to set up a downtown development committee. It's something that's been on the books as part of the downtown area plan, to get a committee made up of business owners in the downtown area to start giving us recommendations and some direction as to how they'd like to see the city do improvements in downtown. So that's kind of our direction, so.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, moving on. We are to account number 10, personnel services. Account number 20, personnel services benefit. Account number 30, professional services.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
So, Tina, it looks like you're going to be doing some sort of a aerial photography. Is that a 2-year project? Is that what I'm reading here?
Actually, the 2,500 that you're reading is a line item that we've been carrying in case we need to do some specific aerial photography, like for downtown, that kind of stuff. It's actually not new money. It appears to be new money this coming year. Actually, what it is we zeroed out our money from this fiscal year to put towards the Citizen Serve software. So it's actually money that we typically keep there. But it is for special project, because the borough is doing a really good job of keeping the aerials up to date. And we utilize theirs.
Thank you.
So to follow up on that, so this is not using the city's drone, this is actually using a contractor to do some overhead photography?
Yes, we keep it there in case we need to. We haven't yet, but as we go with this downtown parking and some of these other special projects, we wanted to keep that line item there.
Thank you.
We are moving on to account 40, purchased property.
Madam Mayor, if we could go back to 3032, we had substantial legal expenses in 21. And then it looks like we're trying to level off at a little bit higher level than we had in 20, where I think we had a different firm in 20. Are you hearing any grumblings that might lead us to indicate there are problems in the pipeline that could create legal issues?
The one that you're referring to, Councilmember Graham, is it was actually a code compliance case. And so there was a lot of time put in by the attorney's office, and it had to do with trying to settle it out of court, which, according to the attorneys at the time, even though that's a large number, that's still way smaller than it would have been if we'd have pursued it to court. So they were able to mediate it and settle it out of court. We currently we're over a little now. We always seem to have at least one or two that show up. Someone wants to appeal a decision. They don't go through the appeal process necessarily through the planning commission or through the hearing officer. They file a lawsuit and then the attorney's office tries to mitigate that. That's what you're seeing this increase here. We had a property on KGB we're trying to mitigate that, and then
The cost of the hearing officer is included in the legal line?
I believe that's under the clerk's budget.
My office,
Thank you.
separate line item.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Brown?
Tina, with looking at the downtown overlay and with the committee you're trying to put together now, you don't anticipate any additional legal costs for those two things?
No, they shouldn't require any legal fees, and we do have money further down for printing and for things for flyers and for materials to help those committees do what they need to do and to do advertising. But I don't think legal is going to be required, not at this time, other than their standard review of any ordinance that we do.
Okay, we are moving on to account 40, purchased property.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
not specific to this department, but specific to the account 4040. Mr. Tankersley, do we have an annual number on how much we spend on copier rentals per year? Or if you don't know that off the top of your head, that's fine. If you could bring it forward, that'd be great.
Right, I want to say it's right around 35,000.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on, account 50, other purchased services.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
account 5040 advertising, is this all print advertising?
Through the mayor, the council member Graham, it is, the bulk of it is, I believe, let me just look quick.
And the follow-on question to that would be, are we still required to put legal notices in printed newspapers, or can we do those electronically now, or?
The way the code's written for planning's department is it does state that it has to be in a newspaper. It's the format that it can be in. We currently advertise the entire agenda. I'm not sure that we have to do that. There might be some cost savings we could realize, or we might could do a minor code amendment to change some of that. But right now, the planning department's petitions do require publication in a newspaper.
Yes, Jamie.
Sorry, I don't mean to derail through the chair to the entire council. If there's any interest from any member in me resurfacing the ordinance on not publishing our entire agendas, just let me know. From a few years ago.
Okay. Account 60, supplies.
Madam Mayor, if I could interject here, there is something I've already pointed out to the finance director, and we'll get it corrected, but for fiscal year 2024, even though that's not being encumbered, it does show the $4,000 for the scanner being carried over. That was just an oversight, so that will be reduced to $500. So it is a one-time purchase. And we'll be working with IT on that it's a number that it would cost for us to purchase one that we could use, but we're gonna also look at seeing if we can do it at least citywide in this building and maybe find some efficiencies that way.
Madam Mayor, staying on account 50, if I may, 5082, staff development. So to maintain your certifications, are you required a certain number of continuing education credits each year? And so what kind of...
I didn't do the math again this time, but I found my note from before. It typically takes about 2.5 years to get the CEUs that's required. It's on a 2-year cycle. So the one line item that you'll see, it talks about the certification is specific. That's the one that typically has the most CEUs. Unfortunately, it's turning out to not be the most useful for the city. I get more out of like some that are specific to downtown development or to other things, you know, small community type conferences and that kind of stuff. And that's what's being programmed in. But yes, the most expensive one is to maintain the CEUs.
So this is a combination of required and desired.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to account 60, supplies. Account 99, technology replacement, the interfund transfer. Anybody have any questions for planning? Thank you, Tina.
Thank you.
And now we're moving on.
Actually, Madam Mayor, as long as Tina's near the microphone, you talked earlier about you know, how we'd reduce some of fees and so on and so forth. Do you have any idea what the level of fees is, what the amount of fees is that we have collected over this year or last year? I mean, are we talking $50,000? Are we talking $20,000? What are we?
Probably lucky if we're talking 10. It's really small. Most of our fees are in the $50 range, the $25 range. That's our most common ones. The only ones that are at larger prices are conditional uses, which are $500, and we get approximately 10 of those a year. So I guess that would be 5,000. Maybe we may not even get 5. I think we have a chart in there for conditional use. No, yeah, 8 to 10, something like that a year. And then a use permit is $250, and it used to be $150. So yeah, we're usually under 10. We don't generate a lot in fees.
So we're collecting about $10,000 in fees against a $350,000 budget. Roughly, is that?
Pretty much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. You're welcome. We are moving on to General Administrative Services, page 101 and to 103. You want to give a synopsis?
I want to give a synopsis, okay? So Crystal Nygaard, Deputy Administrator, I just celebrated my first birthday. So I inherited a budget and acquired some other ideas and created our own, and really am taking this position in a different direction. So you'll see that in my budget, but really my role is to assist the mayor with executing a vision by developing plans and partnerships and different programs for the city to maximize or increase their bandwidth, and also drive economic development. Those are kind of if I had a chair, those would be my legs. Any questions?
Councilman Brown, and some of your key accomplishments during your first year of birth?
Well, I learned a new language, so I'm not fluent yet in government, but kind of. I really work as a translator between the private sector and the public. But I think one of the biggest accomplishments is we were able to modernize, as IT indicated, the IT department, to have them an integral part of all the departments and to be in the conversation, the beginning of what's the plan of a department, how's IT going to support their vision, as well as HR. We did a lot of work in HR this year and working with planning right now to just really develop systems and processes that we can measure and we can make it really easy for business or employees or vendors to work with us. Another accomplishment is we were awarded a economic development grant by the federal government out of Seattle. We will be developing a comprehensive economic development strategy, which is, we're the only one in the Mat-Su borough that's going to do that. And what it is it's a 5-year plan on how to monetize and how to prioritize your catalog of assets. And it is a really good tool for engaging the private sector and develop policies that are very balanced. So we're very happy about that. It's a small amount of money, about $150,000, but it's a start for us to get really intentional and strategic about how we're going to promote our city. And then the last big accomplishment is we took our emergency operation planning, which is a requirement, and I developed a committee and we automated that, and now we are sharing that information with our partners so when we have an emergency, we can be as most efficient as possible.
Okay. We are going to start with account 10, Personnel Services.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
So the salary for your position is set per code. And yet I see some variance here. Do we have a special agreement with you, or I'm not sure where the variance is coming from. Maybe you could.
That would be a Troy question. I'm still trying to figure out the math problem on the top part.
Okay.
Through the mayor, Councilman Graham, so in this particular department, the 22 budget was based on the previous deputy administrator's wage.
Which included several years of service.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was easy.
Okay, moving on to account 20, Personnel Services Benefit. Account 30, Professional Services.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
could we just get a little briefing as to what exactly city branding and Umbrella app is? I didn't quite understand.
Through the mayor to Councilmember Johnson, I thank you for that question. Part of this role and part of my responsibility is to make sure that we have a consistent logo on all of our material that goes out of here and that we know the message that we're trying to deliver consistently. We developed an app with Apple, and so we are going from being a brochure to a icon on your iPhone, and we can push out notifications, we can push out advertising. So an example of that is our parade. In the past, people would download a form, fill it out, bring it to City Hall. We are now going to put that on our app. We can see how many people are using it. We have about 950 people using our app. So that will be one channel of communication that will say, hey, it's open now for registration for the parade, and it takes them right to registration online through our app. I see the app's kind of like a tunnel to Whittier, but it's the tunnel to Wasilla.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, under maybe 3034, 4030 repair and maintenance on your vehicle there, the general question, and this probably isn't for you, but as we bring on a mechanic to do light maintenance in the police department, will he be doing brakes and oil changes and things on other city vehicles, or is he limited only, or he or she, pardon me, limited only to the police department?
Mayor, Councilman Graham, so the intent right now on the mechanic at WPD is to work on the police vehicles. I believe the future, the plan is to try to integrate other city vehicles into that.
But for this budget,
But
this
this
year
particular
budget, we should not.
because there's only one mechanic in all those vehicles, I'm sure it might take another position possibly, or to be able to maintain the entire fleet, if you will.
Thank you.
Okay. Account 50, other purchase services. Account 60, supplies. Account 90,
Madam Mayor, if we could back up to 5081, perhaps you could share some of your travel plans with us, like different conferences and economic development items that you're planning on attending.
So I will tell you, I was a little hesitant about even putting a lot of numbers in here because post-COVID, or if we're still in COVID, from my understanding, the conferences as they were before COVID had a certain number, and we don't know if it's going to continue to grow and people want to go to these conferences or not, but these are the ones that I've confirmed that will happen. Alaska Municipal League is always a good one because it's a policy focused, and it really, now that we're a SEDS participant, we will be in conversations with other cities and boroughs about what they're doing for economic development. The P3 conference is something that happens every year in Dallas, and it is really about how to do public-private partnership funding for large infrastructure projects. It's a great way for us to network with other cities that are trying to build airports or roads, and how are you doing that? I mean, we're very fortunate to have a state that has money, but let me tell you, some of these cities get pretty innovative about how to build infrastructure.
And that's a new conference for us to be attending.
It is. It's a new conference. They usually have about 1,400 people, that 800 this year. And it not only includes the cities, but it's businesses that run sports centers, businesses that run different parts of cities. And so it's how to really have a partnership. I also put in there, in the past, this position has went to conferences that were very planning heavy. But I have built a good partnership with planning, and so I took those planning focused conferences out and replaced them with more economic development of how to monetize what you have. So there will be an economic development one in Ketchikan, and then The International Council on Shopping Centers, in all the records that I've reviewed, there is some indication that's how some of the larger developments are happening here, is contacts there, and a lot of our developers go to that one. So I will go to it this year, but I'm not sure about next year.
I was gonna say, I did not see that on
Right.
next year's.
Because I don't know, really, I mean, we don't have much more land to develop, but I'm gonna really rely on planning to help out on that development of the downtown districts.
And for your plan for this year, for the International Council of Shopping Centers, will you be bumping into our main developer of shopping centers at that?
Yeah. And I've made contact with them to make sure they're going.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, account 60, supplies. Account 99, interfund transfers. Is there any more questions under general administrative services?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
6010 general supplies, pretty substantial change there between 21 and 22. Do you have any knowledge of what that $2,500
I don't know, I've been asking.
was and why it would be continued?
No, I've asked Troy why my pencils are so expensive, but it just, apparently I have expensive pencils.
Madam Mayor, to Councilman Van, actually, we have expensive paper and pencils. So this particular department, one of the things the city has is we have our bulk paper for all copiers in City Hall, for example, the common pens and the pads and the sticky stuff. And so we have a supply room over by purchasing whereby we have a common thread of supplies. This budget here supplies that. A department also might have, like, say, finance might have a supply line in there that says office supplies, but it might be specific because when I write with signed checks, this pen works great, whereas stock pens don't work.
The cheap ones you give everybody else don't work?
Yeah, so when I buy these pens, for example, then my department's going to be charged for it.
But the $10,000.
This $10,000 is for
The City Hall.
City Hall paper and.
It just reflects inflation over several years.
That is correct.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Mayor, can I make one other note? The parade, the cost of our 4th of July parade historically has been in this budget, but in working with finance, we thought it was more appropriate to go to rec services because it is an event. And so some of those costs go into rec services now, even though we're managing it. So just FYI.
Yes.
Councilman Brown, I know that you, I believe, supervise IT,
Yes.
and I'm just wondering, with all the things happening in the world and stuff, and events that happen in other cities and stuff, and I mentioned when he was up here about cyber, that's a big concern of mine. And I didn't see either one of you attending any kind of cyber conferences, making plans, and especially what's possibly in the news about a strong cyber attack against the U.S. and specifically Alaska. I'm concerned that I don't see a lot of discussion there.
And that is a very good question. I've been working with Steve and his team. I'll tell you, the last 6 months, he's had to do a very deep assessment of what do we even have and how are we maintaining what we got. And when you have one router that was bought at Walmart and one that was bought at Target and one that your friend gave you, and you have firewalls here that are maintained at 12 o'clock on Tuesday and at WP, they're maintained on Tuesday of next month. Just getting that scheduled so you can do an intelligent assessment is key. And so he is in the process of taking that cyber assessment and then implement it. But I do know that he has been doing a lot of patching and scheduling and firewall enhancement to have a level of protection that we're comfortable with. But I am gonna make note of that, and can I come back to you with some kind of investment in professional development for cyber?
Yeah, I would definitely suggest that as well. Thank you.
And would it be appropriate to perhaps have an outside firm that does nothing but cyber for a living to be one of our partners in the city through a contract? Or?
We have looked at that as well. There is some advantages to having these assessments done, but there's also a significant amount of money. It's like the word redundancy. If you want to be 100% redundant, it's going to be a huge amount of money. So we're trying to weigh that balance with how do we get the most compliance with a partner or partners. And so I think that would be a good reason to have a partner, is keep us updated.
And just a comment there, people get concerned when you talk about redundancies because of the price of that.
Right.
But one hack will triple that in an hour.
Right. I know one of the projects that we're working on is the radio frequency, because connectivity is key. And right now it's kind of burping. I don't know if there's probably a better word in IT than burping, but it's not, you don't have 100% all the time. So that's one of the things, is to get this project done this year so we have the maximum connectivity, so we can add these additional programs onto our current system.
Again, thank you. I just didn't see any big ticket items on his budget or your budget, and I was concerned.
That's because we scared him about spending money. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Crystal. Now we are moving on to Human Resources, page 108 through 110. Jamie.
Good evening, council members. My name is Jamie Herbert, and I'm the Human Resource Generalist for the City of Wasilla. I started with the city in November of 2020 and was immediately hit with COVID, so I really started my regime in January of 2021. At that time, the assistant quit too, so there was enough changeover in HR where we had a fun ride. Danny Adams was hired as the Human Resource Assistant in 2021 as well, in February. I possess my master's degree in human resources, and I have 12 years of military experience with the Air Force. I also have my human resource certifications through the HRCI as well as the SHRM certifications, and Danny has her bachelor's degree as well as her SHRM certification, and she's working on her HRCI. We have completely transformed the way that HR is done with the City of Wasilla, and we are very proud to see the impacts that a solid human resources office has been and what it has provided for the city in both mitigating risks as well as building programs, and utilizing our department heads and empowering them to build their employees up and teach them methods to do so. Over the last year, we have realigned positions to make it make sense, essentially, and that's why in the budget you're noticing some of the changes within our Public Works Department. That was a realignment. We've created a new evaluation system for the city in terms of evaluating our employees that makes it easier to apply performance management, and it doesn't take 2 to 3 hours to complete. So taking our managers' time back to what's important, and that's impacting the city with their own mission, while also holding their employees accountable and letting them know what their expectations are. We've created a telework policy this last year because it was established that the city was moving in alignment with the rest of the world with COVID-related issues. And so we developed a policy that would allow our employees to work from home as needed and necessary to continue city mission. We are in the process of updating the code and city policies, and we're utilizing our department heads' knowledge and insight to be able to build a solid foundation so that it works for all departments across the board and not just one department dictating the change. We're building a bridge with the unions and created an entire new process for human relations and how we approach our human relations and approach employee issues. And then by doing so, we're building that rapport with our union representation, and now that working relationship's very solid. We also established a new online training platform, which it's from APEI, but we had to set up the entire program September of 2021. And that has provided a different perspective training. The previous training platform that the APEI had was an older model. It was from probably the 90s, it seemed like. So now this new innovative way of training is engaging employees in a different manner. We've also established a working relationship with our insurance provider to come to us to actually provide in-person supervisor and employee relations training. And then we also are we set up a new recruitment online system that aligns with the rest, a majority of the cities in the state of Alaska. So if outside candidates are looking for an opening, they are now seeing the city of Wasilla on the government platform versus having to go through our specific website to be able to get there. So we're actually seeing a better applicant pool for our public safety department specifically for the outside candidates coming up to Alaska. We also have established different employee engagement initiatives so that we can get more engagement from our employees so that the retention is there as well as the turnover rate is less. And people are our greatest assets. If we don't have our people, we don't have the ability to or service the public as we need to. So that's really what we're building. We're just building an empire of HR to be able to support our employees in a way that's going to support our public customers.
So, number one, you mentioned SHRM. I'm guessing that's the Society for Human Resource Managers, which is a kind of the definitive, training and cooperative education sort of place in the United States. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, sir.
And you mentioned reducing turnover. Has HR been tracking turnover rate by department or for the whole city for years, or is this something new that's been?
Well, we just started really tracking this year. It's been tracked to a certain extent. There has been quite a bit of changeover in the HR department itself, and some of it coming into the position, I thought I was walking into a generalist role. Coming outside the military, maybe I'm naive, I don't know, but I thought I would be reporting to an HR manager because that's typically the structure in any organization. And so I don't know if that was a limp fact and why turnover has been where it's at. In the HR department specifically. But what we have realized through having two now professionals that are fully certified as well as have our degrees, we are now seeing the impact that having that knowledge base in the seats and actually building that team to the best that we can provide the city.
Okay, we are going to account 10.
I think this is actually a Troy question, but I'm seeing a significant rise in our personnel costs here. Can you address that? I mean, it looks a lot higher than even 9%, or 26% or something.
To the mayor to council, so you should have received a very lengthy memorandum from me. And inside that memorandum gives the explanation as to why this personnel and benefits, for that matter, are.
Oh, that was this. I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to read that prior to that.
But really, in a nutshell, it is proposed that we take the existing HR assistant and reclass them to an HR specialist, and they would move up one grade from the existing, right, it's a 7 to an 8. And then on the HR generalist, reclass that to an HR manager. And that's also reclassed.
Thank you.
And the numbers that we established within the budget were alignment with our salary survey that just was accomplished, and the duties did align with the other cities that we had compared to.
Okay, we're moving on to account 20, personnel services benefit. Account 30, professional services.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
So, I see legal is pretty much doubled. Is this just a fact of higher cost of our legal contract, or are we anticipating more pushback? I'm confused.
Sure, through the mayor to Councilman Graham. So HR's experienced, as Jamie somewhat alluded to in her role as she's learning here at the city of what's going on. But in her learning ability requires a lot of interaction, more interaction than normal in the past with our attorneys. And that's going to cost more. So that's what's going on.
So it's more a consultative.
Well, consultative and actual issues at hand. A number of different kind of day-to-day different things that sometimes require an attorney's opinion.
So some of the increases with our legal consultations have happened when we do our city code update meetings. We've had a lawyer present during those so that we don't fall into any shortfalls that we shouldn't be doing. So if a manager or a department head wants to update the code and the lawyer is there to say, no, let's work at this angle, or how can we do that? So that's one of the main things that our lawyers have helped us with in that aspect. The other aspect is for terminations. I always consult a lawyer to ensure the risk is mitigated and to ensure everything's in alignment and then $1,000 is reimbursed by our insurance provider at the end of a termination.
So from what I hear you saying, you actually get a yes or no answer from the attorney. Haven't been able to do that for.
Madam Mayor.
Call HR.
Through the chair to the council, so I review the attorney bills. And so the Title III rewrite, we're coding that under a different account. So we're doing a lot of work as the committee, and she's done an excellent job looking at Title III, and there'll be some code changes coming through. Some of the things I see more this year than maybe in prior years. It's kind of that consulting with the attorney on terminations, disciplinary actions, maybe overtime issues, questions that arise, those types of things. So.
And from my understanding, Councilmember Graham, the HR issues we've experienced in the last year have not been addressed or have not been seen in the last 10 years. So there was consultation needed just to ensure we were going the right direction.
Great, thank you.
Okay, moving on to account 40, purchased property.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I see a item for software of NeoGov, whatever that is. Could we get a little explanation as to what that is?
So NeoGov is our new recruitment system. It's the government-established online recruitment system. There's a lot of local cities that utilize it. We've increased our ability to get quality public safety manually. But the rest of the city has benefited from it.
Okay.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
On item 4040 rentals copier there, is this a copier that's maintained in your office, or is this your share of rental for a more common shared copier?
Through the mayor to Councilman Graham, so it's not a shared, it's her copier. And we, just for council's purposes, we just went through a new contract, if you will, with Biennial business. And the old contract that was done on a pooled amount of color and black and white. It was allocated by use, if you will. The new contract actually takes the pool away, and it's done on billing of a monthly cycle based, again, on use, but it's the price per page that changes now, so it's not where you negotiate the pool. You have the ability to negotiate the pool, but rather I have to negotiate the price per page. So, but this contract is what was awarded EPM. So, but as we talk about everybody's departments, they will be billed on a monthly basis based on actual use for that month.
Do we set the copiers for a specific department on whether they need a copy or not based on their usage, total pages per month or something? If you've got 6,000 pages a month, then you need to have your own copy, or if you've got less than that, then you should cooperate with another department to make that happen? Or?
No, you don't do it that way at all.
Thank you.
Okay, we are moving on to account 50, other purchase services.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I have a question on your advertising. It's not so much that I question the amount, but do we also do advertising through other sites other than NeoGov, like LinkedIn or any of the other things that we could?
We would love to, but to be honest, they're very expensive and the payout hasn't been very much. We do notice that a lot of the those sort of websites, Indeed, and they pull from our website as it is. So they're out there. They're just, we don't pay for a subscription.
Too expensive. Thank you
It's
very
pretty expensive.
Okay, moving on to account 60, supplies.
Madam Mayor, if we could stay on 50 for a minute.
Okay.
5082, staff development, over the years has, quadrupled. Could you perhaps address that?
Of course. So we have now 2 certified HR professionals. For each certification, there's specific requirements for those. Additionally, we would love to attend the annual conferences because it's very important that we connect with other SHRM members. And so there's an annual conference down usually in Vegas, or this year it's in Louisiana. And last time I went, because I went in 2021, I met a lot of people to connect who helped provide resources to help us build programs that needed to be built, but we didn't necessarily have that bandwidth. So we didn't have to start from the bottom. So having those connections is very important, especially from outside the state of Alaska. We also want to attend the Alaska SHRM conference, and it's an anticipation with the rise of pricing and the cost to go down there. They've increased their prices, and depending on where the budget lands, the increase could be anywhere from $200 to $800 per ticket. So we're just ensuring that we have the funds available to be able to not only do our professional development, but as well as go to those conferences to gain the knowledge and insight to bring it back.
And at this conference, at the national level conferences, there option there for attending courses, getting continuing education credits there, so you're only traveling once instead of traveling twice?
Correct, for the most part, yes. And additionally, one funny story, I guess, of the importance, while we were down at the conference in 2021, the vaccine mandate came down for the 100 businesses. Talk about the buzz in an HR conference. But hearing the different perspectives on how companies are handling it was very beneficial. And I actually had met someone while I was there who was in a local city in Milwaukee, and she was able to provide me with information as to how they approached it with their staff, and we did the same, and it mitigated some of that angst in the beginning. So it was proven to be really beneficial.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to account 60, supplies. Account 99 is interfund transfers. Yes.
I would like to move back to 5085, dues and restrictions. Training videography platform, could you expand on that a bit?
Yes. So, what we would love to do, our vision for the city is to make things as easy as possible. So not only our employees, but our outward-facing customers, well, not customers, but our future applicants have videos to reference as to what the city can provide for them and what we provide to our employees. So the idea is to develop miniature videos that explain our benefits, that explain what does our public safety department do? How is it really exciting to be part of the police force? That's the intent of that videography. My husband has so kindly decided to teach me how to utilize that program.
Then I noticed it's $250 each year, and it's training videography platform. So is this equipment we currently own and are operating? Is this something we're borrowing from your husband?
Definitely not borrowed. There's no conflict of interest here. No, he's just providing training. But no, it's an online platform. A local or a company provides the service to be able to build those videos on their website. It's a $250 annual subscription.
And we have the equipment to do those videos?
It's all on their platform. So thankfully, I don't need anything additional. I just need their website.
But we have an adequate camera that's not an iPhone to do that sort of stuff?
Well, the cool thing is it's going to be a bunch of stick figures.
Oh.
So I don't have to be on camera, which I'm very thankful
Guess
for.
I'll have to lose weight. So. Thank you.
Okay, we are moving on to account 99, interfund transfers. Okay, any more questions for Jamie? Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is finance, page 128.
Paper and very
So you want to do this, Troy?
Huh?
So you want to do this?
Well, I was thinking, man, I should get Joan up here and give her some experience.
Don't use one of these cheap pencils instead of the expensive pen.
This is an expensive pen.
Okay.
So the finance department specifically manages and advises on the finances of the city. But to do that, we have 12 positions. And currently, finance department is in a bit of transition. As you know, we've upgraded into another staff accountant by the removal of the cashier position. And that comes primarily because we've gone to online systems. And that really has mitigated the foot traffic at the counter. So that was number one. Number two was to find someone, actually, to hire someone that would apply. Seemed to be difficult. And that's, of course, during the COVID period. So while that was going on, the accounting position and what I refer to as a higher level of accounting knowledge was escalating with the COVID issues, with the CARES Act issues, a number of reconciliation type workloads and whatnot, where our one staff accountant was basically overloaded. Our previous staff accountant had retired, and we have a new one now. She's got to learn and come up to speed and everything. So the demands of that job increased. So that's being done. We recently hired. We had some transition there. So in our AR position, she transferred over to the staff accountant position, which then we have to hire for that. So now we have a domino effect. We recently hired a new person for the cashier utility position. She starts the 25th. good to know that. However, our sales tax administrator will be leaving us in May, so that position is now being opened. So, like usual in finance, it creates a domino effect of hiring and recruiting for a while until things settle back out. So that's going on now. And obviously through the whole CARES Act COVID period and this last year, the city has, or the finance department has really been tuned into the CARES Act administration of $18 million and all of its programs and grant administration. We've also implemented, like I alluded to, the online system of MuniRev, which has been successful. It continues to be successful. We continue to work through some amendments with that system. Alongside that, the city, or the finance department, continues to engage the Alaska Remote Sales Tax Commission. And that also integrates with the same MuniRev system, so we're in constant contact there. We continue to receive our certificates for financial reporting in both audit and budget as the code requires, and we'll continue to do so each year. So we have been very busy with these things, so. Is there any questions?
Mayor, just a quick question. On our Alaska sellers sales tax agreement, we had a long discussion a year ago on that as to how successful it would be and how much we'd collected. How successful have we been?
When we originally appropriated the fees, you recall something to the tune of $100,000 in fees, and we anticipated quite a bit more revenue at that particular time. This particular budget, the fees I budgeted at $75,000, which is less than that. However, the updates with the remote commission and everything, we are seeing an increase with businesses coming online. Big names, you know, obviously Apple and Amazon and all of those are starting to come on. And then smaller ones as well. So it's, you know, it's not just, it's Alaska trying to tell the lower 48 that, you know, you need to step up. And so the commission's doing what they can and where they can with the resources they have. And I think over time it will increase. I truly do.
It's still a significant number.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Okay,
To follow up on that, if I may, Madam Mayor?
okay.
To follow up on that, even though we're now paying the Alaska Remote Seller Sales Tax Commission a fee essentially to collect taxes from these outside sellers, we are collecting well more in taxes than we are paying in fees that we would not have been able to collect prior. Is that correct?
That is correct. So in round numbers, we've collected thus far in '22 to the tune of about $400,000 in the remotes, on the remote side.
And we paid fees of?
Paid fees of about 60 right now, I think, something like that.
Great, thank you, sir.
Okay, moving on to account 10, personnel services. Account 20, personnel services benefits. Account 30, professional services. Account 40, purchase property.
Mayor,
Yes.
Troy, we're seeing a significant increase then in computer software. What is the cause there?
Through the mayor to Councilman Johnson. So the finance department wishes in '23 to attempt to bring on an online or a digital form of timesheet reporting that would be integrated into the payroll system so that we can remove the paper process.
And would that result then in less personnel costs? Because reading through your summary, it talked about, operational change of your software maintenance of $10,000 to implement the timesheet management system, and then you're carrying forward this $10,000. So is it $10,000 a year indefinitely to do this? Would that then be paid for by a reduced demand for personnel in your office?
Probably not. And I mean, we would save, we anticipate you would save the integration, if you will. But you probably wouldn't save on the approval and the control process steps that are required from the employee to a supervisor, or a correction to a timesheet that needs to go back through that process. So from that perspective, you would save the paper cost, obviously, and the time to deal with paper. So you might save some on the payroll side because of the integration into the system, I would hope. I'm just not sure what or how much there.
With this digital system, is this, a lot of companies nowadays are going in where you sign in on your phone when you get to work instead of going to a central time clock location. Is this?
It could be something like that. There's a couple different types and varieties of those. One of the challenges that, I don't know if you're aware of them, but one of the challenges we have is the union contracts. And that's primarily because of the different flavors of hours, if you will, that are generated through those contracts. Night shifts, swing shift, day shift, they go to court, they're on standby, and then you got holiday and holiday overtime, and et cetera, it just builds and builds and builds. And so many of these systems can handle that, but like Anchorage has went through this, and I don't even know if they ever did get the entirety of its payroll integration done because of those union contracts.
So will this cut down on office supplies because you won't have to sign as many checks with those expensive pens?
That's the digital signature side of getting it. And then you have the record retention requirements as well, so, yeah.
Mayor,
Yes.
question for Troy. So the timesheet system you have now, are you saying it's very manual? Is it on paper? Everyone gets a little time card that you fill out your 8, your 8, your 8, and so if anything, it's probably going to save the employees time, I would think, and maybe better tracking, and maybe better accuracy, and you can tell maybe how much leave time someone has. The system will know that. It won't be something a supervisor or manager, how many hours does he have? Okay, he has enough. The system will do all that, I would presume. I think it's a good way to go.
We've looked at this a couple of years, well, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 times since I've been here. And they've come along, these software companies do more and more each time, and so it might be right to look at it again. So at least that's what finance would like to do, and try to get something on board to try to mitigate some of these issues.
Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't gone that way yet, so.
Primarily because of the union contracts.
Yeah. That's good for you.
Okay, moving on to account 50, other purchase services.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
cellular phones, Mr. Tankersley, that's actually kind of a low number. Is there only 1 or 2 phones in your department?
Right now, there is only 1 phone in the department along with an iPad.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Moving on to account 60, supplies. Yes.
Troy, in 2022, there was a large expenditure of $16,000, which is not being carried forward. Is there any anticipation that might have a similar impact years going forward?
Right, through the mayor, Councilman Johnson. So the finance department, over a couple years, well, even 3 years, upgraded the desks to a stand-up desks. And then in 22, this one specifically, we did the finance director's office, the controller's office, And on top of that, we had to buy a complete setup for the second staff accountant.
Thank you. One time per.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I have a policy question here, 5085. I don't even know what that is. Dues and subscriptions. I see that you have a copy of the code book, a physical copy of the code book in your office, and when it says reprint there, is that an update? Is that, and the question would be is if the clerk's office is responsible for making sure that update comes through, can't we just consolidate that expense to the clerk's office and just, rather than nickel and diamond each, the very few departments that actually have code books?
So I'll ask the clerks to correct me if I'm wrong, but a few years back when we went to online or the code book itself, hard copy, I've requested that I maintain a hard copy book in my office.
As do I. That's easier for
Right,
me.
and so because of that requirement, it's an added cost that is billed, yes, through the clerk's office, but it's definitely through my choice, if you will, of having that as a cost to finance. So I can see,
So the clerk's office cost for these reprints only reflects the copies that the clerk is responsible for, not for the ones that other departments are.
pays for the update pages, is that correct?
Through the chair to finance director and the council. We don't charge for the supplement, so if you decide to have a paper code book, we don't charge the departments for the supplement pages. What we do charge is when a new director comes in, and this is the problem with the paper code book, 9 times out of 10, they're not updated, so it'll be a complete reprint. So a lot of times we'll charge for that, or Sarah has also graciously just made the copies. So maybe, truthfully, maybe I should have been charging departments, but since I've been on board, I haven't.
All right, write that down.
So, I mean, and I'm fine too. I mean, those are the supplement pages, and we've really pared down the amount of hard copy
Right.
books that we have, and so we're, if the finance director wants a paper copy, we're happy to provide that service, and we don't charge it back. But that's not to say when he leaves and a new director comes in, if we don't have time to reproduce those thousands of pages and we get it from the printer, I will back bill them.
So when Mr. Tankersley's position is filled by another person, we're gonna assume that he didn't keep his code book up to date, and we're gonna get him a whole new one?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Shame on you, Troy, for not.
In advance.
Okay, account number 69, other expenditures. Account number 70, capital purchases. Account number 99, interfund transfers.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
if I could back up to 5090 supplies, or actually it looks like it's 6010 supplies, office supplies, water, I'm assuming that's water for the entire city hall, not just for the finance department, is that?
No, that's water for finance department, but it's not.
Bottled water, obviously. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions for Troy? Hearing none, thanks, Troy. Code compliances, next is page 121 through 123.
May I request a recess?
Yes. We'll have a 5-minute recess. Back on the record at 7:46. Okay, we are doing code compliance. It's on page 121.
Great, good evening. Danielle Bischoff, Director of Public Works. Real quick, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to the council for understanding. We are post-COVID, but we are not quite post-COVID, so I have just childcare a little bit tonight, so thank you for understanding. So just to give a brief overview of our code compliance, this is I'm really proud of the job that our code compliance officer has done over the past year. He's been standing up this department from scratch, really. This is something that used to fall under WPD, and now it falls under Public Works. He has not even been here a year, and he has done just a phenomenal job. Our goal with code compliance is to take a proactive approach. We are looking for equal enforcement across the city. We are looking to create mechanisms to allow for residents to be able to report issues that they see online with the citizen serve, as our city planner was discussing. And just try to get that message out there, because sometimes we don't do the best job to really communicate with folks, hey, there is a problem here, and these are the things you should look out for. To try to send letters out to everyone, such as out at our airport, letting everyone know, hey, this is what we're doing and why we're doing it. Help give us some validity in our department, harbor some of those relationships with the community, and work to better see better enforcement in the future. We are seeing efforts to bring things online, and like I was speaking about, having those code enforcement issues reported online, as well as working with planning. And so when planning has their applications come through, now our code compliance officer has the ability to take a look at that. He can be out in the field and he can take a look at all of the permits that exist for a lot. So it's reducing that back and forth time in the office, out of the office, what's going on, what should I be enforcing, what shouldn't I be enforcing. It's giving him a more holistic approach. It gives us, I think that it makes us look better to the community, and it shows that we are talking to each other throughout our departments. Additionally, which we'll get to when we get to Public Works, but this is another area we're going to be linking in some of Public Works as well. So again, our code compliance officer can look at all of the permits that exist. Our code compliance officer has also done a wonderful job of coordinating with finance and seeing how we can link some of these in with our business licenses, and again, making sure that we're all looking and working together. He honestly, he's been educating me a lot, and I greatly appreciate all of the work that he's done, and I think that we've got a great team to be moving forward. So I'm sure as we go through the budget, there might be questions, but again, this has been a department that we are starting up really over the past year. He's not even been with us for a year. And so I'll go ahead and Mayor Ledford.
Question, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, I have a question too.
Okay.
Okay, well, we've had a code compliance officer in the past.
Yes.
I believe he was union before.
Correct.
And he was taken in that position, he retired, and that position was taken out of the union. And I don't know how you did that either, Joy. How did you get a position out of the union?
It's a negotiated issue, is what it is, and it's agreed upon by both parties, ultimately in the end. Once the previous code compliance officer retired, turned vacant. Now it kind of opens up for negotiation.
That's what I thought.
At the time it was filled, it wasn't open for negotiation.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking that's kind of a tough job. They like to hang on to their positions. So you really felt you started from scratch? You did you use a new job description? Did you use, you said it's kind of a brand new department. Can you explain that just a tiny bit?
So I will explain it to the best of my ability. However, Mr. Giddings was serving as the Director of Public Works when this got up and running. So I can't speak to exactly what he did, but of course, we're learning from what was done previously, and there was the job description and all of those sorts of things. So we do have a job description that was signed by our code compliance officer when he came on board, that he's working under those assumptions and moving forward. We have also, since I've come on board, we've been working closely with WPD as well as MatCom, and again, creating some more of those connections. So it's from scratch, but it's not from scratch. Our officer has he has a law enforcement background, and he's got, he just has such a knowledge base to begin with. So it is establishing, he has a different office now. It used to be housed over with WPD. It's now housed in City Hall. And we feel that that's an advantage, because then we can be speaking with the code from our side, what we need to see and how we can work with our departments here. But we have not lost that connection with the police department, and Chief Long and I have been working closely together to see how we can support each other, and our officers have been working together as well when applicable. Does that?
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Brown?
Thank you. The stuff you mentioned that he'll be doing, code compliance, animal control, I'm assuming, along with building permit inspections, along now with licenses. Is one person able to handle all that?
Yeah, so that's he's doing so much as one person, and what we're able to provide is we're able to provide support staff in the office through Public Works, and we are again seeing where we can additionally support him. Is there paperwork that we can be helping out with? Yeah, I think that this could grow over time. We're sort of picking our highest priorities and moving forward on those, and but then we do get those animal calls, and we don't get a choice in that. That is a now issue, and so as we see those now issues, we're pulled away from whatever we're doing. And he does not have a backup aside from, he does have the support of our police department and myself when applicable. I'm not a police officer, so not that sort of support. But but yeah, it's something that I think that we could see grow as to how enforcement works in the future. But right now, I see him really accomplishing a lot. And again, he has spent so much time working with our city planner to set up Citizen Serve as well, so that it works across all our departments. So he's just doing a great job.
Thank you.
Colleen?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question. So previous code compliance officers would be making the rounds through the city and, highlighting where people are parking in handicapped spots, et cetera. Is he active out in the community as well? Or is he just like in the office now, kind of following what Citizen Serve provides to him? Or is he more proactive?
More proactive, I would say. So we are definitely responding to those reports that we get through Citizen Serve. The great thing about that will be that it's all documented in one place and we can prioritize. And so if it's something, if it's a pothole, then in the future, then we'll be able to take that in Public Works and it won't be on his plate, that sort of thing. But sorry to step back. So we can prioritize those issues that are coming in through that system, but he's also out in the community. And he's also working closely with planning to understand what they see coming up and where we should be out and being proactive to make sure that we are communicating, that we are out in the community, we are driving around, we are there to make sure that that what's approved is what's going into place. And with Citizen Serve, I'm really excited because we'll be able to show you better tracking in the future with this. He has the ability to say, hey, these are the issues that I got while I was out on my patrol. Versus these are the issues that I addressed that are so here's a code compliance issue that I dealt with while I was out on patrol versus here's a code compliance issue that I dealt with because it was submitted to me through Citizen Serve, and those sorts of deals there.
And last question. So with the subject of his job description and what he's doing then for Public Works planning and police force, then is he divided maybe in half then between the two, or is the majority of his work still kind of public safety related?
So he reports directly to us. We see his role directly impacting public safety because we see it as a huge success that we have been able to support Wasilla Police Department by exploring different avenues through our code, through code enforcement, on some of the areas throughout the city that have been issues for the police over time where they don't necessarily have the right mechanism, where it's been an issue for them and for their officers, but that we have been able to help support PD from the code standpoint. He does report directly to me, and so we go ahead and prioritize those issues and figure out where his time should be spent. I would say that I don't know if it's 50-50 right now. It's probably about a third split, so a planning and patrols and that sort of code enforcement stuff, as well as setting things up still. And we're still in the process. One of the big pieces to that is also citizen service part of it. The other part of it is getting him established. We just got him his radio, which makes me feel so relieved. So he does have that mechanism to make sure he goes home safe at night. And we'll be working to get him onto an electronic reporting system with the courts so that we're currently doing paper copies for his citations, and we are working with the court system right now to establish that. Thank you.
Okay, we are going to account 10.
That's why I raised my hand.
Oh, I didn't.
I wasn't just waving at you, but that's it.
Okay, Mr. Gray.
Makes you feel better. So does the code compliance officer do some community relations stuff as well? For instance, Councilmember Johnson at the last regular council meeting mentioned the kind of aerial trash dump next to Home Depot. Is he able to stop in when he sees something like that, before it becomes a significant problem, and say, hey, this looks like you might want to prioritize some of your time towards preventing this or cleaning it up when it happens? Does he do that, or is that outside his realm, so to speak?
So his role is code enforcement, and so if it's in our code book, it falls under him. And what he does, and again with Citizen Serve, one of the advantages is he can go out and he can have a discussion with a homeowner and he can document that. And we have that all recorded so that we know what steps we've taken. And we are trying to harbor that community relations and not go straight to a citation, but say, hey, this is something, let me educate you. Here's the problem at hand. Here's what I'm seeing. Here's what needs to happen. And some concrete steps as to, we need to see you go and talk to finance in, the next X number of days to get that business license. Otherwise, we're gonna, and we need you to go upstairs and we need you to talk to planning so that we can get your uses in line with the code and with all of the ins and outs that Tina has upstairs. So he does take that approach, and we do document it so that then we can be equal and fair in our application there. So again, go out, have that conversation, perhaps issue a warning, and then follow up with a citation if actions are not taken.
And when he sees something like the aerial trash dump that Mr. Johnson was mentioning, does he bring that back to you and say, hey, maybe we should look into this as a code issue, even though it's not a code issue right now? Or
So we look for opportunities in the code where, as he's being more active with the code, we look to see, are there areas where we need to update our code? Is it out of date in certain areas, which, it's a discussion we're having. We obviously have not brought that to you yet.
Danielle, let me interrupt you, please. Okay, we are getting into policy and whatever, and we're here to do the budget. So we need to get back in and start the budget process.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So that's on behalf of everybody else.
Okay, we are gonna start with account 10. Personnel services. Account 20, personnel services benefit. Account 30, professional services.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
not sure where this would fall in here. You mentioned, mailing out notices and things like that. I don't see postage anywhere on here. Is that something that's absorbed elsewise, or is that something that's such a minor expense that we just don't do that account for?
Postage is typically under communications.
Thank you.
Okay. Account 40, purchase property. Account 50, other purchase services.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
On the line item, I think it's for, the way I'm reading is insurance, you see a big jump here. Can you explain a little bit what's going on that account, please? Because it went from 6590 to almost 10 grand. So like
20?
Yeah,
There's a
50,
couple,
20.
there's a couple problems I see with, don't look at the percentages.
Yeah, I figured that the percentages were broken.
Right,
No, but I was just looking at the numbers.
But as far as the numbers go, so code compliance, when we originally budgeted in 22, now we're looking at 23 and 4, we know more now. We got personal, this is kind of common with most of the departments. You got liability insurance based on payroll. You've got a vehicle, and the equipment behind it, so its costs are now being integrated into that. And something I haven't mentioned, and we're talking about insurance, the budgeted amount increase is between around 20% in total for the 23 period. If you recall last year when we did 22, it was at 24%. The actual numbers, I just went through a board meeting where it was adopted some reductions, some hope, if you will, coming from underwriters that hopefully our actual increase would somewhere get around the 6% mark. So that was hopeful to hear from the underwriters, but in all accounts prior to that and everything in this budget, total it was about 20%.
Well, that was a big jump. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we are at account 60, supplies.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
One other big jump is accounting for, if I've got this correctly, uniform and clothing. In 2023, it went from 250 up to 17 something. And then when I look at it, it says park ranger or something like that on the next page. That got confusing for me.
So it's uniform gear and it's also includes the park rangers. However, the jump that you see is in an effort to get him a bulletproof vest.
Oh, got it, thank you.
Okay, moving on to 99.
Still on account 60, Madam Mayor?
Okay.
This is probably a Troy question. What per gallon cost are we using to figure gasoline on these budgets that we've looked at here?
Through the mayor, Councilman Graham, so we don't calculate this on a per gallon base or a consumption base on a number of gallons, that kind of thing. It's really about where and what they've spent. Prior years, current year, projecting out where the price is, kind of thing. And that's kind of done at the department level, but not on the number of gallons or price per gallon. We don't track the number of gallons that a department actually consumes.
So when we look at a budget like this, where, 4,022, 4,023, even though there's been an 80% price increase for gasoline, Sounds like maybe we're,
It's 80% now, but you don't know that it's gonna stay at 80% for an entire year. So these are projections that, they're estimated projections, and if a department goes over needing more, like most recently, we just adopted a, that they either fund it through internal accounts, or if necessary, they come back to council and ask for more money.
thank you, sir.
Account 99, inter-fund transfers.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
So I see here on the 9917 technology replacement, we're going from one computer to two computers for the one person there. So I'm assuming there's a desktop and a laptop. Wouldn't it be more efficient just to go to a laptop docking station?
This is for a desktop, and the laptop goes to the vehicle.
Oh, okay. Totally different. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on code compliance? Hearing none, we are on to Public Works Administration, page 177.
So just to begin, a quick overview. I know that you folks are hoping to hear some of that. As the new Director of Public Works starting back in January, the goal is definitely to continue forward with the legacy that's been left behind and to protect our infrastructure and make it a wonderful community for all of our residents. One of the other goals with this administration has been to really bring forth some new technology. And so some of the items you might see in here are related to that. We are looking to, update those systems so that we have better tools in place for our employees so that we can see they've been doing, again, an amazing job, but better utilizing time and resources to the best of our abilities.
Okay. And we're starting with account 10, personnel services. Account 20, personnel services benefits. Account 30, professional services.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
So 3034 professional services other. There's a line item in here for Wells Fargo payment processing for plans. So I'm kind of confused where that comes in since we're right across the hall from finance. Couldn't we somehow combine that with finance to, I'm not sure what the nature of that charge is.
I would have to follow up with you specifically on what that line item is for.
If you could find out before the next regular council meeting, that would be
Yes, sir.
helpful. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes. Moving on, account 40, purchased property. Account 50.
Just a second, hey. Mayor, I had made a note to myself on a question, I can't formulate it at the moment. Maybe we can come back to this.
Account 50, other purchased services. Account 60, supplies. Account 99, interfund transfers.
Madam Mayor, may I back up?
Yes, sir.
40, 31. Exactly. Could you explain, there's quite a jump in computer services there.
That was my question. Thank you.
Yeah, so the jump that you see in computer services there is that I gave it my best estimate in the time that I had. What I would like to see is us better utilize some GIS software We don't currently have like our water and sewer maps or anything of that nature. It's not in a GIS base. We have some of those in in AutoCAD, but we don't have them in a different platform. I've been working with some other communities to figure out the exact right, I want to make sure we get it right before we implement it and before we put that software into place. And so doing some of the back work right now. Esri is a platform, and again, tagging on with what the borough has been doing, learning from them where we can collaborate efforts on that. So there is the software for GIS, and then there's also, I'd like to look into an asset management program. We have some little bits and pieces here and there throughout our entire department that we're utilizing, and I would like to come together as one department that we have better tracking for all of what's going on. I would also like to implement software so that we can do a better job of, and I can't remember if it's specifically, let's see, it might be here, or it might be in a different department. I apologize if it's a different department, but like a ticketing system so that as there are issues throughout City Hall, so if like our city clerk has a light bulb that's out there, she's able to submit a ticket to us. And then we can say, oh, City Hall has all of these issues going on, and we can go with our facilities at one time. And that we can use our office staff to help manage that as well. So just really, those technologies are not in place, and so it's putting them into place.
Do you have a geospatial specialist in your section to understand and manage that?
No, sir, we don't. I bet I'm probably about as good as it gets, and I'm good enough to be dangerous. And so it will be looking into, we'll be tagging on with the borough wherever we can. I don't know if you've ever been over there and seen the facilities that they have, but they have an incredible department. I do not pretend to be them. But I think that there's the opportunity to partner with them. And I was speaking with the city of Soldotna just the other day and learning about how they implemented that, because they also don't have those resources like the borough would have, but how they were able to tap into consultants and bring forward a project that really utilized.
And that's what I was concerned. If you get consulted, then you'll have that, but
Right.
getting the software and not having the specialty to play with it.
Yes, and there would definitely be some training associated with that for the upkeep as well, so.
Okay, we're moving on to 99, interfund transfers.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. Danielle, do you have an idea about how many miles a year you're putting on the department vehicle there? Or what the history is?
So I would need to, again, Mr. Graham, Councilmember Graham, I want to get back to you on that so I give you a clear answer. That vehicle is shared in between myself and my deputy director, as well as my office staff if they need to run any sort of errands. We do also utilize that vehicle because it is a smaller vehicle. So if we have trainings that are in Anchorage, for instance, we don't send, to the best of our ability, we try to utilize that smaller car to transport folks versus utilizing one of the trucks.
Thank you. Yeah, once again, if I could find that out by the next regular council meeting, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any other questions under administration for Public Works? Hearing none, we're moving on to Public Works Road Maintenance, and it's on page 1-3.
So for roads, our roads crew has been, as we came to you this past week with that increase, our roads crew has been maintaining through about double the amount of snow that we encountered last year. They've also been going out and using the equipment that we have and utilizing rentals as well to better get set up for the winter. Highlighting maintenance throughout the city within the time frame that they have. We do utilize the contract for plowing and such as necessary with the outside contractor when we can't keep up with that. But for roads, we're just looking at sort of maintaining what we are currently working with, and yeah.
Okay.
So, Madam Mayor, just one point of clarification. What I'm seeing before me then is just the budget for maintenance and not for any new projects as such, correct?
That'd be in the CIP.
Yep, very good, thank you.
Councilman Brown, could you just list one or two major accomplishments that roads accomplished this year?
Well, I would say double the snowfall as an accomplishment. I would also say that, when I came on board, I sat down with each of my supervisors and tried to allow them to educate me. And what my road supervisor was able to provide me with was that he has a very motivated staff. And with that motivated staff, we do see an increase in cost. Why do we see an increase in cost, like in rentals? Well, that's because they want to be doing this, and they are motivated, and they are out there, and they're cleaning ditches, and they're cleaning the brush back from the right-of-way so that we can access our bike paths and our roadways as needed, as well as have that snow storage in the winter. So it's maintaining some of that right-of-way and those roadways, going out there and grading all of the gravel roads that we are looking to upgrade as well, and filling all those potholes and doing those projects as they come about. One of the key features, I guess, that just came to my mind is that last year they did work to clean out and upgrade some of the dry wells that we have around the city. That paid dividends this winter when we had those rain events. We did see flooding throughout our streets, and we did have to shut down certain roadways at certain times, but then you saw that water recede. And that was because of the efforts that that crew has done out there to ensure that we're maintaining.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. Okay, moving on to account 10, personnel services, Account 20, personnel services benefit. Account 40, purchase property. Account 50, other purchase services. Account 60, supplies.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
In light of the budget request that just came back for gasoline, do you feel that we should maybe up that gasoline budget just in case we have another bad year next year?
So I might ask Troy a little bit of assistance on this, but from what I understand is, we try to forecast that, and we do, of course, have that mechanism to come back to you as needed.
Mayor to council, Works Director is exactly right. We can pump it now as an amendment, or if we find that down the road that is needed later, then similar to what we just did. If we do it now, it's speculation, if you will. Sometimes it's half one, doesn't another. I always avoid trying to appropriate contingency scenario.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
So on 5090, item 5090, other purchase services, there's an item each year for MEA streetlight install. Is that streetlight repair, or are we adding new streetlights? Are you familiar with that?
5090.
5090? You can get back to me on that.
I do know that we look to install streetlights. Again, I'm still learning about all of the ins and outs of this, and I want to be sure that I give you the correct answer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Colleen?
Hi, Danielle. So I am looking at 4091 with regard to contractual services. And I know we've got road maintenance, grading, sweeping, et cetera. How much of the road work that we are doing for snow removal and then also for the sidewalk pathway removal. Are we doing that, you know, employees in-house, or are you contracting out for some of those projects?
So for our sidewalks and pathways, that's actually covered under our Parks Department. And there's a certain area that is covered in roads, but that's actually covered in our Parks Department. When we have those big snowfalls, what our procedure is that we have our crews take the north side of the highway, and we have our contractor take the south side of the highway. That's how we approach it for those call-outs. And again, as we get a smaller snowfall, then we can go ahead and we can handle it in-house. But yeah, percentage-wise, in those big snowfalls, it's definitely a team effort.
Madam
Thank
Mayor.
you. Yes.
On that same line, 4091, that's where weed mitigation is in there, which is a program that was started about 3 years ago that initially was at $20,000 per year. Now it's at $10,000 per year for this, primarily for invasive weed mitigation to kind of get rid of the silkweed. Try and knock that down over 5 years to hopefully eliminate 99% of it. Can you look into that to see if that's? Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to account number 70, capital purchases. Account number 99, interfund transfers.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I do see that it went from 20, for 4 trucks to 21 to 5 trucks. Was that when we purchased that new vacuum truck, or what was the change in the fleet there to go from $40,000 a year to $50,000 a year for the supplementing the vehicle fund? Do we know that, Mr. Tankersley?
Off the top of my head, Councilman Graham, I'd actually have to look back. It more than likely has to do with, we increased the appropriation in the vehicle fund, I believe to $150,000 around that time per year. And it might have been an increase. I'd have to look, but I think it's because we increased that appropriation, thus we increased the allocation on the.
So was it an increase in fleet size, do you recall, or just an increase in
price?
Something to cover the cost, okay, thank you.
Okay, account number 99, interfund transfers. Any more questions for Danielle on Public Works roads? Okay, we are moving on to Public Works property maintenance, 191 and 195.
So for our properties, we are working with a small staff to maintain a growing number of buildings that we have out there throughout the city, and making every effort to work on the upkeep. And again, doing fantastic with what we have, I would say. But yeah, as you can see here, we've got City Hall, we've got our police department, we've got MATCOM. We have WPD, in all of these different areas take our support. And one of the things that may not come to mind immediately, but with our property maintenance staff, they are out there doing the shoveling outside of these buildings when it snows. So we have the sidewalks, but we also have the sidewalks. So, yeah.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I'm going to direct this to you because I think I actually saw it in your report earlier. Weren't we planning on having an increase in headcount for building maintenance, or was I mistaken in that?
That was in Parks and Rec.
Oh, it's in Parts and Rec. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, we're starting with account number 10, personnel services. Account number 20, personnel services benefits. 40 is purchase property. 50, other purchase services. 60, supplies. 99, interfund transfers.
Madam Mayor, sorry, to back up a little bit there. What's the status of the Newport building and future uses of that?
I would love to follow up with you a little bit more on the status of the depot building. I have been in coordination over, so that's not specifically in this budget.
Oh, I thought I saw it in here. I'm sorry.
For moving the depot. So it's one of the buildings that we do maintain. Yes, yeah, so,
It's moved now, I just wondering, yeah.
right, yes, let me provide a follow-up for you on that, yeah.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
backing up just a bit to 4040, purchase property rentals, I see a man lift as one of the rental items. I swear we own a man lift, don't we? Seems like I see it in the yard.
We don't actually have Rhodes has a small man lift.
So, hold on, please. Yeah, so, I'm sorry, Marilyn. So if we don't have one, we don't have one. I guess we would not have one, if you'd like Mr. Follett to speak.
We sure don't have one.
Yeah.
The question is, if we have one, why are we renting one?
No,
Kind of the question.
yeah. So we wouldn't be renting it if we had it.
It's more of an example of what we may rent, so.
Absolutely.
Okay. We are moving on to Public Works Parks Maintenance 210.
Okay, so for our parks maintenance, this is where we get back to Councilmember Johnson's question. So, this is an area that's grown over the years. This staff has been requested to do all sorts of different projects, beautifying our city, adding facilities to our parks, and then maintaining them. We can go out and we can see all of these different features that have been established over the years, and these folks have been working with the same staff as they have been since 2011. We can see the justification for, I'm probably jumping forward too much. But the parks staff, it does maintain, they do maintain the sidewalks and bike paths in the winter as well as they're part of our crews that also help out with clearing our parking lots. So our additional, at the WPD, at City Hall, all of these parking lots that have to be plowed, somebody does that, and that's our crew.
All right.
Mr. Johnson had a question.
Madam Mayor, one quick question, Daniel. Do we have a refurbishment plan for parks? If not, I mean, it's just sort of a goal that I was thinking of. I don't need a discussion now, because it's not a budget item.
Okay.
Okay, we are starting with account 10, personnel services.
Thank you.
Account 20, personnel services benefits.
Oh, Madam Mayor, then this actually does show the bump. There is the one position that we're adding. Is that correct?
2.
Oh, the positions that we're adding are the bump in the increase there.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good, thank you.
Account 30, professional services. Account 40, purchased property.
Mayor?
Yes.
Regarding line item 4030, regarding repair and maintenance, so you have staff that oversees the parks, the buildings, our fence repairs, vehicles, etc., on our garden bricks, all the way down the line. And for example, we had someone come to talk to us recently about the tennis courts. And so when I see, for example, what, 27,900 is maintenance then for the parks all included in that 27,900? I mean, you're talking, I did a park and family park and like I said, all the things that you have listed here, there's a lot.
Right. And so repairs and maintenance, so for our parks and maintaining our parks, that's something that like you can see reflected in our staffing cost as well. And so like the folks are out there doing that. To your question of, is that enough? So it is spread out the way that we do those repairs. There's different items throughout this budget that help us accomplish those goals. And we did keep a mostly flat budget through here, working with that. For those special projects like resurfacing, that is stuff that we do go out for on the tennis courts, for instance. And
Is that within this line item then is what I'm asking?
mhm.
Because you have it, again, considered with the parks and everything, so, nets on the tennis courts are being replaced, evaluation of the courts themselves are being evaluated to see how you can get those resurfaced. It's kind of tailored with Councilmember Johnston's earlier request. I guess I'm trying to see, kind of what I had asked before was operations and maintenance. What are we doing to maintain the parks? What kind of schedule do you have? And of course, this may be intermixed with your capital improvement project plans as well, so.
And so to just speak to it overall, they have been focused very highly on some of the projects in the past as well as maintenance. And so we do have a laundry list of maintenance items to do. And I'm hopeful that, with that additional staff, we can really tackle it and we can get better on top of what is out there. Because it takes manpower to do a lot of that. And in speaking with like the plan forward, I am excited to be able to work towards making a comprehensive plan for all of these different areas within Public Works and how we maintain that. With the software that I'm looking to move forward with for Public Works, this is part of it, is that we can better track where we're having issues and how we continue that forward in the future. They're keeping their records to the best of their ability right now and giving them those tools to really show us that. I don't think I answered your question.
Not completely, but maybe that's something we could discuss later. Yeah, I don't want to hold up.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you.
Okay, account 50, other purchase services.
Mayor.
Yes.
So, back to account 40, line 4091, purchase property contractual services. Everybody notices, of course, that we have porta potties next to our permanent latrine facilities, or whatever we call them, restrooms, at some of the parks where we have permanent facilities. And that's not something that we have always done. I don't know when we started doing that. Does that mean we're putting less emphasis on maintaining the more permanent facility, or we're just adding capacity by using the porta potties?
I can assure you it's not because we are ignoring the permanent structures. I believe my staff is sitting in the back.
You can bring him up.
Mr. Fault, would you like to speak to that or no?
Do you want to, we can bring up a portable mic as well. Let me just grab you one.
Oh, okay. That'll work.
I got it. And then you can sit up there. But then
He's really the expert on this.
Porta potty guy, huh?
No, he's been around for a while.
He's the all-inclusive man.
Madam Mayor and Councilmember Graham, porta potties were put in place for winter because the bathrooms, most of them, other than Wonderland, are not heated. So we can't keep those open. And we had, frankly, we had a lot of people that were just going to the bathroom on the ground. And we needed some way to contain that feces. And so I decided to try and have more money. Mr. Giddings was kind enough and Ms. Biscoff to maintain that for us so we could actually afford the porta potties during those and at those parks, at locations we felt we needed them. And then for Idetta Park, Mr. Giddings was kind enough to allow me to have the authority to just close them down at 3 o'clock or 3:30 in the afternoon, roughly 3 o'clock, and leave the porta potty there for the sled hill because of our vandalism. It's just, well, you've seen the building got trashed, and also that year and a half ago, we went through about $5,000 worth of faucets because they literally ripped them out about every week. And so we've went to a higher, it's actually a lower end manual faucets instead of the touchless ones because we just can't keep replacing those. And so that's why we have porta potties there.
Okay, and while you're sitting there, this would probably fall under you as well. The pedestrian tunnel, which I'm assuming is the one, the railroad, there's about $3,000 a year in maintenance on that. Haven't we had that closed for 5 or 6 or 7 years now?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Graham, yes, we've replaced the pump twice now. Last time I replaced it, it was about $11,000 to put a new pump in there, and kind of got a leftover mess from the state, more or less. And we can't seem to keep it operational because it literally has to run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Because that tunnel is about roughly 12 inches, maybe a little bit less than that, below the groundwater surface. And so that water has to run into that vault, and that pump runs, and it's almost impossible to keep a pump in there running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it runs year round. So
if it's closed down, why are we doing any maintenance on it?
well, we are going to do more. We're in the process of trying to get it back open again. But it's kind of a logistical nightmare. I'm sorry, Councilmember Johnson. We literally have to try to schedule roads to come in with a vector and reach down inside and vector out. And I don't know how many gallons their vector truck holds, but we have to vector all that. It's about 5.5 or 6 truckloads of water out of that. And then we have to have confined space entry. I've got to have, usually I do it, I go down in, I have to put a plug in the wall because there's water running in constantly. We have to plug that off, and then we have to start tearing down the pump and trying to replace that.
This is an issue that we do hear about through keeping it open. It is something that does come to the community.
Thank you, Mr. Follett. Account number 60, supplies. 70, capital purchases. 99, interfund transfers. Okay. Is there any other questions for Danielle on the budget on parks maintenance? Okay, we are going to go until 9 o'clock. We've got 3 more funds to cover. So we're going to sewer fund on page 260. This
Did you
is
say sewer or water?
Sewer.
sewer.
Sorry.
All right, so for our sewer, we are, again, working to maintain our infrastructure in the sewer department, maintaining our wastewater treatment plant, and as well as our step system, which I'm sure everyone is aware of, that it has some unique challenges to it. And keeping all of those open, as well as providing mainline extensions as applicable to businesses.
Thank you. Account 10, personnel services.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, on page 254, we're increasing one head for the sewer, but I guess I don't see that increase reflected in line 1010.
Troy?
Mayor, Councilman Johnson, again, in my memo that I provided. So the city originally, in my presentation, was asking for some changes whereby we were asking for originally to reclass our existing 3 operator and training personnel into and create a tech position. On top of that, we are asking to add 1 operator. Now, all of those, or those positions specifically, are allocated positions between the water fund and the sewer fund. However, to continue with my memo, just to point out, the administration reevaluated that today, and its administration's wishes now, we are going to submit an administrative budget amendment to remove both of those from the 23-4 budget. The idea that we would like to take a look at the entirety of the water and sewer personnel and how they relate. We have personnel that are going to be retiring over the next 2 to 3 years. We have issues about Tech 2, Tech 3 type water individuals, that may be retiring in a couple of years. And so I think a deep dive into the whole program of personnel and the need and the requirements needs to happen, better suited to look at the whole package at that time and change where we need to change, and to do something like this now and then ask again later. So.
Thank you, Troy. Okay, account 20, personnel services benefit. Account 30, professional services. Account 40, purchase property. Account 50, other purchase services. Account 60, supplies. Any questions for Danielle on the sewer fund? We're moving on to the water fund.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
just a point of clarification here, on that page 260.
Uh-huh.
So page 260, what you were looking at is only specific to the sewer fund general administration division. You would have to continue to 263. There's 5 divisions within the sewer. We can do one of 2 things. You can go individually by each of those divisions, or you can look at page 258 in its entirety.
So 258 has them all.
258 has all 5 divisions wrapped up under one.
Okay, we're going to page 258. And account 10, personnel service. Account 20, personnel services benefit. Account 30, professional services. Account 40, purchased property. Account 45, construction services. Account 50, other purchase services. Account 60, supplies. Account 80, other expenses. Account 99 is the interfund transfers. Any questions?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Just a quick question. Just regarding, actually water and sewer, are we anticipating an increase in fees at all for water and sewer to our customers?
I have not looked at that directly.
There hasn't been, it has not been programmed to do so.
Okay, good, thank you.
All right. Now we're moving on to water fund 278.
76 would be the summary page.
Okay.
Similar to sewer, water is maintaining our infrastructure, supplying water to all of our existing customers, making sure that we're keeping up with the needs out there, and maintenance of all of those new connections and mainline extensions as they come forward.
Account 10, personnel services. Account 20, personnel services benefit. Account 30, professional services.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
So I'm looking on page 286, which is Water Fund Public Water Treatment Plant. And here we have all of the, I'm specifically looking at the communications. And I see a bunch of MTA circuits there. How much data are we actually transmitting that we need a circuit as opposed to being able to use a landline? I'm not sure what.
No idea on that one.
The circuit is designed to handle continuous traffic at high levels, whereas a landline is more, you know, we need to send a report every hour or something like that. It comes across an auto dialer or something like that.
That would be something that I'd have to follow up on. I don't have that. I don't have that sort of technical knowledge offhand.
Councilmember Graham, which line item specifically? I'm just keeping notes.
5030.
Yeah. And then I see the communication.
Fund is 320-4363.
I got that. Is it a particular line item in all those? Is it that MTA local for 4,000?
5030. Anything that starts with MNET.
Okay. Thank you.
There are several circuits there, which
Gotcha.
are a fairly expensive way to
Thank you, sir.
communicate.
Thank you for clarifying.
Mayor, Councilman Graham, I know some of these that are referenced are due to the security systems on these. They reference auto dialer and things like that that causes a security alarm that gets triggered into WPD dispatch.
Right. An auto dialer would be appropriate. I'm just curious what amount of data are we transmitting where we need a circuit to handle something going from a water station?
I have no idea.
So, actually, I'm thinking a little bit more, and what we do have that, and I would imagine that this is where this is encompassed, is we do have the ability to monitor what is going on with our water flow so that we can, so that our maintenance supervisor can look at that off-site to monitor, to identify if we are having an issue. And I can follow up. That would be I suspect that that's where that's coming into play.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, we are moving on to account 40, purchase property. 45, construction services.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
There's two line items, 27 Richmond Hills B Station. Does that go away? Is that it, or is that construction done? And then there was a similar one on the Spruce Avenue water tank repair. I didn't quite understand that, those two lines.
Can you say that line again for me, please?
4527, if you notice it, all of a sudden it went to zero, okay, with a $730,000 return. And then line item 4563 with a 339777 return.
Troy?
Madam Mayor, to Councilman Johnson, so when we budget for a CIP project, that project is valid for 3 years. So in the case of looking at...
They're completed projects then?
No, not necessarily.
Oh.
So like in Spruce Tower, or the Spruce Ave, so your 21 actual was showing 220,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
So additional funding must have been there or whatnot, but now it's 339 in the budget side for 22. It's not showing any actual, and there's nothing more being asked for or appropriated in 23. However, if the project's not completed within that 3-year time frame, and either one lapses, the excess funding lapses, unless it's it could be a grant that lasts longer than 3 years, then there's some conditions behind that. But it wouldn't be, in this case, we're not asking for any more money for that project, right. So it's going to show zero. Yep. It doesn't necessarily mean that it just falls off like the project's done.
So that could come back in future years.
You might see this show up when we're looking at the 24 budget. Next time you update, you might see this again in the 23 amended.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to account 50, other purchase services. Account 60, supplies. Account 80, capital purchases. Account 99, interfund transfers.
Do airport.
Are we done? Airport. Okay, we're moving on to the airport, 297.
Just give a brief overview of what we have going on at our airport. We have expanding interest out there, which is always exciting, but our maintenance staff does a phenomenal job. We continually receive compliments from our users out there. And we are looking to continue the maintenance level that we currently have, as well as increase the maintenance around the airport and our security, keeping it up to date.
Okay, thank you. All right, account number 10 on page 297. Personnel services. Account 20, personnel services benefit. Account 30, professional services. Account 40, purchase property.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
so in the explanation for 4012 waste disposal, there's a used aircraft oil disposal. Is that just a site where we provide aircraft owners the opportunity to dispose of oil and then we take it or cause the recycler to pick it up? Is that something we charge for? I'm not suggesting we charge for something, I'm just asking. Do we know?
Can we follow up with you on that?
I'd be happy.
Wonderful.
We'll circle back to that.
Circle back to you.
Okay, we are moving on to account 45, construction services. Account 50, other purchase services. Account 60, supplies. Account 70, capital purchases. Account 80, capital purchases. Account 99, interfund transfers.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
if I could back up to 6010, please, general supplies. Significant increase there allocated for tie downs, runway, taxiway and transient lighting and marking supplies, windsocks, pavement supplies. Is this because perhaps we haven't done as good a job as we needed to maintain those things, or is it because we're expanding the apron and we need that additional stuff? Do you have an idea?
So it's increased infrastructure requires increased money sometimes to maintain it. We do have lights that I don't know the status from the past as to how those were all maintained, but I do know that we have a number of lights on a regular basis that we have to replace. Those are not cheap, unfortunately. And so a big part of that is coming from those lights.
Okay, so, like you say, infrastructure
Yeah.
increase is kind of where that's
Yes.
probably coming from. Thank you.
Okay. Then we are done.
Oh, let's keep going.
2 minutes. Oh, yeah.
No, we ain't, no, we're done. Good night.
Madam Mayor, may I ask Troy a question?
Yes.
This is a general question, so I understand better. The vehicle, I think you call it the vehicle replacement fund, is that just to replace the vehicle, or does that include if you had a major maintenance problem like a transmission went out or something?
That's a good question. So the repair and maintenance type item, and that would be budgeted. But when we buy a vehicle, like say, for example, as a police vehicle, we spend $40,000 on just the base vehicle. And they turn around and spend an equal amount on all the lights and stuff, right? That actually comes out of the replacement fund.
Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Move we exit committee of the whole.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Brown.
Third.
It's been moved by Councilmember Graham and seconded by Councilmember Brown to exit committee of the whole. Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved. We are now at audience comments. Is there anyone present that would like to address the city council at this time?
Let me spend a few. We're done.
We're now to the mayor, clerk, and council comments. Please keep your closing remarks to
1 minute.
1 second. It's already 9 o'clock. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Real quick, we'll see you guys here tomorrow, 5:30 PM for our first special meeting. You'll approve an AM, and then 6 o'clock, you'll adjourn then we'll reconvene at 6 o'clock, and we'll continue with departmental budget presentations.
Okay, Councilmember Brown.
No comments, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Graham.
No comments, Madam Mayor. He told me to say that.
Councilmember Sullivan Leonard.
No comments.
Councilmember Velock.
No comment.
Councilmember Johnson.
Well, now that you mention it, no comment.
Councilmember Rubio.
No comment.
Okay, and I have no comment except thank you all for your time. With no further business at hand, I'm adjourning the meeting unless objection is raised. Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned at 9:01 PM.